Look, Mohamed Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Harry Kane, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson. They're all very expensive and take up a big chunk of your budget. So we need to find the cheap players that can slot into our sides to allow us to pick these heavy hitters to put the captaincy armband on. So in this video, we're going to go over some cheap players that I think could potentially do well this season, the 2021-22 season in the Fantasy Premier League. So before we get into the video, make sure to hit that like, subscribe and hit that notification bell, as well as checking out Fantasy Football Hub, which is the website we get all of our data from. And let's get into the video. So looking into this video, please do note that these are players that I'm estimating could do well, and there's no guarantee because they're cheap for a reason. It's because they don't have the pedigree and they don't necessarily have the attacking stats from last season to back up their price to a point where they aren't cheap. But we're starting off with Daniel PODENCE from Wolves. Now, Wolves from last year weren't that great, and there's a reason Nuno did move on from the job at Wolves, and there's a reason the Wolves players are significantly cheap. They failed to impress compared to previous seasons. However, Daniel PODENCE did at the beginning of the game look very, very promising, and depending on who comes in to manage that Wolves team, Daniel PODENCE could be a decent shout. At 5.5 million, you're looking at a player that managed to get 75 points last season from 3 goals and 2 assists, a non-penalty XG of 2.46, expected assists at 1.69, and expected points at 92. However, the start of the season is absolutely atrocious. Leicester City, Tottenham and Man United in the first 3. But then it is Watford and Brentford, 2 promoted teams, on the bounce after that. Now, if Daniel PODENCE can find his footing and get a good start to the season, I could see his price skyrocket. But of course, this is all speculation. And speaking of speculation, we move on to the next player, and that is JONNY from Wolves as well. Now, JONNY comes in at 4.5 million, and of course, last season was also a very popular choice as a left back for Wolves. However, he did get an injury and didn't play. That being said, if he does get back into the side, JONNY did have a very good season previously when Doherty was also at the club, and was very integral to the way that their wing backs played. Now again, depending on who takes over the job, there could be a different setup that doesn't suit JONNY, and there is a plethora of left backs now at that club that could also play in that position. But if JONNY does start regularly, he was a very good attacking outlet for Wolves, just not on the same level as Doherty when he was there. 16 points from last season, 42 passes received in the final third, and 91 touches in the final third from very few appearances, shows the potential that he could have. But again, the fixtures, like PODENCE, aren't that great. We then move on to goalkeepers, and I could quite easily put Sanchez in here, but I think everyone knows about Sanchez from Brighton. But the alternatives are Martin DUBRAVKA from Newcastle at 4.5 million. Now, last season, he actually lost his place and had some injury concerns, so he only got 48 points, but that included 3 clean sheets. And he had a minutes per save of 26 and 45 saves made last season, with big chances saved at 5. Now that's quite significant compared to the other goalkeeper we're going to look at. The start to the season is a bit of a hit and miss, but because of that, he's going to make plenty of saves. So you could see some save points as well as a clean sheet, or maybe if you're lucky, even 2. So Martin DUBRAVKA is a decent shout from Newcastle, despite the fixtures being West Ham, Aston Villa, Southampton, Man United and Leeds. Before we move on to the next player, once again, thank you so much for Fantasy Football Hub for being a continued partner of this channel. They've supported me, and if you want to support me and you are interested in Opta stats, fixture ticker and plenty of articles for the Fantasy Premier League season, then check them out, top link in the description, sign up, it does help me out massively, and thank you Fantasy Football Hub for the support. So next, we don't move on from Newcastle, we stick with them with MIGUEL ALMIRON. Now, I've been hoping this guy would hit the ground running from what I saw in the MLS, but that hasn't quite been the case. However, 97 points last year, and Newcastle started to look better as an attacking outlet as the season went on. He managed 4 goals and 2 assists, with non-penalty XG at 3.24, expected assists at 2.18, and expected points at 123.3. Again, the fixtures are a bit of a mismatch, but If ALMIRON hits the ground running, or if he finally finds the form that he could bring on from the MLS, he could be a decent shout at 5.5 million, especially with the likes of Wilson and St. Maximin around him. Next up, we have Eric Dier from Tottenham Hotspurs at 4.5 million. Again, we're waiting to see who the Spurs manager will be going into next season. But they do have 3 nice fixtures sandwiched between Man City and Chelsea, being Wolves, Watford and Crystal Palace. Last season, Eric Dier managed to get 77 points. He managed to get 68 passes received in the final third and 61 touches in the final third, with expected points at 117.2. Now, you could also look at Sanchez. Again, we need to see who the new manager is and then which one of these players he plays. But Eric Dier and Sanchez could be decent shouts for your Fantasy Premier League sides at 4.5 million. Back to goalkeepers, and we're looking at GUAITA from Crystal Palace at 4.5 million. Now, he is actually a decent shout for goalkeepers. Even last season, Crystal Palace do actually receive a lot of shots taken on their goal, and he managed to get 124 points last season from 8 clean sheets. Now, it wouldn't need a massive improvement on their defensive numbers to be looking at 10 clean sheets plus. Also, he made 1 error, unfortunately, but minutes per save was at 31.4, which is better than Sanchez. Saves was 106 saves for the season, and he only really saved 1 big chance. But what we're looking for is plenty of saves from shots taken in not great positions, and if Crystal Palace put a lot of men behind the ball, those save points could rack up. Now, unfortunately, the start to the season is absolutely terrible, with only Brentford in game week 2 looking like a nice, easy fixture for them. But if you're looking for a goalkeeper to stick with for the majority of the season, then it doesn't really matter if the fixtures are bad or good at the start of the game. Next up, we have EMILE SMITH-ROWE, a midfielder at 5.5 million, and I think this potentially is the pick of the bunch. Now, at 5.5 million, you're looking at a player that looks like he could potentially cement his place as the number 10 in that Arsenal side. Arsenal don't have any European football to be worried about, and he managed to get 74 points. And you have to remember he broke into the side halfway through the season, and he got 2 goals and 5 assists. If we double those numbers, that's 4 goals and 10 assists, which would look a lot better for a £5.5 million midfielder. Non-penalty XG is at 1.78, expected assists at 2.61, and expected points at 75.2. You're looking at Brentford in the first game, and then game week 4 and 5 at Norwich and Burnley. So you do have to look past game weeks 2 and 3, Chelsea and Man City, but at 5.5 million, I think you can manage that. And finally, we're looking at Brandon Williams from Man United at 4 million. Now, 4 million is an absolute bargain if he starts. Of course, he's unlikely to start at Man United with Shaw and Alex Telles at the club. However, it's looking like he could go out on loan, and if he goes out on loan and nails down a first team place, then he could be an absolute steal. Now, the stats, it's not really much point in talking about them right now. 5 points, 16.3 expected points, that's all irrelevant, as well as the fixtures, because he's unlikely to start for Man United. However, if he does go to somewhere like Southampton, then he could be an absolute bargain for us to put onto the bench at 4 million. So guys, that is it for cheap budget players for your Fantasy Premier League sides. If you agree with any of these picks, or if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below. And let me know if you think I have missed anyone. I could have put Fofana in this video, but I think we've talked about Fofana in yesterday's video already, as well as Lamptey. So we're looking for some other players we could consider. There may even be another version of this video down the line after some preseason games and a few more cheap budget options show themselves, and also after we've done a little bit more research into the promoted sides. But enough about that, I'll let you get on with your day just after you hit that like button, subscribe and hit that notification bell for FPL, and make sure to check out Fantasy Football Hub, who've been supporting the channel for over a year now. With that being said, I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.